It's Chastia, and it is October 9th, 2024. And I'm outside. I wanted to jump on really quick. I've been thinking about doing this video since everything's starting to really build up and everything happening in Florida. And I wanted to just quickly, sorry the trash cans are in the back. This was kind of even strange how this video ended up turning on right this very second. Florida has been a part of the journey for me. It was kind of like woven into the background of of even the story when I was in California. Even whenever I was in Anaheim and we were in Anaheim dealing with the cooking of the collective and trying to spinal tap us in a way to hold us into a position in California. Even that was dealing with Florida because of the Tesla grids and the Disney complexes and how all of those Disney complexes are attached into one each other all over the world. And so I had been working it almost like a teeter-totter this entire time. Now, even up into this year and everything that's transpired this past 12 months, because in March I was in Florida and it's currently October and I was in South Florida. But the Florida journey goes way back to the beginning of 2019. How Florida became involved with this started for me in February 2019, and it was at the end of the month of February 2019. It was when in my world, it was February 29th, which I don't think that year was a leap year, but this year is. And it's when SpaceX, and I can't remember because it was one of the first things that first things that he pushed out. And it was Elon, Lady Rocket. It was like the whole group of them. And in California, they were seeing the signs in the sky. They were seeing the collider doing their weird little, now we know it's SpaceX. But that was the first time that we had seen it and none of us knew what was going on. When that happened at the end of February is when it was the same night that the SpaceX thing happened, and then all of a sudden I was literally like an embryo egg. I was in a mountain. I was inside a huge like rock cliff. All of a sudden sitting in my room, and then there were 3 people that brought some guy out on a little pedestal. He unzipped his pants, he jacked off, and all of a sudden a sperm's coming towards my head. And it took me 3 hours. I was shaking, I was doing all kinds of light language. I was consciously, it's like they had put something into the human soup, just a little bit of something. And as that little bit of something was coming through my whole body, I was alchemizing it and turning on all of our gifts, all of our telepathy, all of our gifts, everything in our DNA that had been turned off. I was consciously turning it on. And then I blew out of the matrix. And then all of a sudden I had to get to Louisiana. That, what I just talked about right there, I also know links up to Roswell and links up to the beings that were found with some of that Roswell stuff and other things that had gone on all over the world, in which you would consider plasma beings and aliens. But that whole thing that I just described somehow even links into that, and it was playing out again. now it's like my mind is going, it's playing flip-flop on me. I'm trying to remember if I went to Florida before February 2019. I can't remember. I can't now. It's like it's escaping me. It was at the either at the end of 2018 or the beginning of 2019. I think I'd just gotten back. Now that I'm thinking about it, it was the beginning of 2019. I had just gotten back from Florida. This is where the big event happened in my world, because I had what I just described hadn't happened yet. That happened whenever I got home. Right before that happened, in I believe it was February 2019, I was doing what I'm doing now. I had the YouTube channel. We were all activating, connecting. We were still trying to figure out what was going on. We were as a huge unit. And there was a woman, her last name was Mason, that was on YouTube at the time, because there was huge groups that were coming in to do other things as well into the socials. And she found me, and at that time I was working with another AB negative name that was actually from Carolina. And this was 2000, at the beginning of 2019, at the end of 2018, what the collective and all of us were clearing was ancient, like Alpha Drac energy and White Draco energy that had never even been penetrated before down here by a human. And at the end of 2018, that's what I had gone into in the ethers. She had even helped me, and it was like this whole thing that we had to do as a group with AB negative bloodlines, and because this stuff had been going on for a really long time. It's just nobody knew about it because it wasn't finishing. So she flew me because there was a group of us that lived around her, and I had just started doing starseedology at that point, so I was just now starting to do charts. The colors hadn't come in, none of that. And so she worked for a 5G company, and she lived in Pomona, Florida. And I actually live in subdivision over here called Pomona. Like there was a lot of synchronicities with where I ended up over here with my parents after my house and everything was taken when they took the company. And Netflix was there. Netflix was there. They were all talking about Burt Reynolds. They were trying to get me on a Netflix show to talk about Burt Reynolds theater and all this pedo stuff that had gone on. And I refused because I told him I was going to tell him the whole truth about all of it if I did. And a whole group came over to her place, and there were 2 people from Australia that were there that I didn't know were going to be there. There was just a whole bunch of weird shit. Now, when I got to Florida and I flew in, the moon reacted to me, and I've done a video on here about this because I have it on video. And as I was flying in that metal box, fully activated, not understanding at all what power I held, the moon was outside because I was flying an airplane, and I started concentrating on it, and all of a sudden it starts freaking out, turning inside out and glitching and like freaking out and moving all over the place. When I got into Florida, then all these people were there. There were certain areas of Florida we couldn't go to. It's like we were literally in a dome in another timeline. There were certain areas of Florida that were like cut off, that we couldn't get in, that we couldn't get into, this massive key appeared as we were doing the portal stuff and doing the stuff on the ocean and all these things that we would normally always do in order to connect into the Florida Keys. This key appeared up in the sky. Like all of these things happened attached to 5G. When I landed there, it's like, and I have probably about 30 pictures of clouds when I first landed in Florida that night, because every single cloud in the sky was a plasma cloud. And if you've ever experienced that, you know what I mean. Your frequency is so strong in the plasma and in the blood that you're moving all the sky is showing you one big story, but it's not typical clouds. The first night I got there, and they made me sleep on the ground. There was all these weird things with Venus and these two Australian people, and they made me sleep on the ground. I'm sleeping on the ground, and I'm excited. This is the beginning of 2019, and my mermaid. So I'm sleeping, and I saw my mermaid for the first time. Like as soon as I got to Florida, I was laying down. I felt her energy like all the way around me, and then boom, she was pulled. It was like that energy got next to me to connect with me, and then it was pulled. I can't fully explain what they did, but I know it had everything to do with 5G grids and those water and the water connections. Now, I left there, flew back here, and then that's when then everything blew up with the Elon Musk thing around the leap year time at the end of February. The very next day after whatever SpaceX did is when Elon got in trouble and his security clearance was questioned. Then he released all Tesla patents on the internet because he knew he also couldn't hold them anymore. I've also since then talked to Lady Rocket and told her, y'all watched me blow up, because they did. Whatever they were doing out there, whatever they did at the end of February, they watched it blow up. Now, Florida, then fast forward, so that's like the beginning of 2019. Then Florida really didn't come up again to me, really big until 2020. And in 2020 and at the end of 2019, when what I call my industry handler twins, whatever the hell those two characters were that were in the industry that were around me, JM is his name, his initials. This JM character is contacting me and telling me all this, da 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 da. And this was when I was in Santa Rosa. I was in Santa Rosa. At this point, I was supposed to go stay in a house that was somebody had two houses in Santa Rosa, and I was supposed to go stay in one of the houses. Well, on my way to California, the house gets set on fire. So when I get there, there's no house. So now they've got an RV in the front lawn, and that's where I'm staying. Now, this was right as COVID was hitting in 2020. And those industry character, that JM character, had me manifesting mansions in Hollywood, Florida. So it's like, I love you and I'm gonna marry you and blah, 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 blah. And I want you to go into Zillow and find us a house. This is one of the things that they would do in order to use us to manifest. Well, it was all about Hollywood, Florida. Now, at that point, Hard Rock and Mirage hadn't done whatever they did. That hadn't happened yet. Las Vegas is very much in my energy too. The very first thing I did when I got here is I had to go claim Las Vegas. That was 2018, which led to all this that I'm talking about right now. So now, so that leads us up to 2020. And if you've been watching me on here, then you know, or if you go back and kind of look at these dates, you can kind of go back and watch what all was happening around me around these dates. But for these Florida purposes, I'm going to fast forward now to 2022, New Year's, January 2022, specifically in Tampa. I was in Tampa. Now, at the beginning of 2022, we had already got to the point where we had redone the Rh negative bloodlines. We'd put them all back together. The way that they had the baby farming and everything that they had controlling the line. So it's basically like we put together a new line and gave them a new seed, and then they were still controlling the lines. So the reason I was there was because there was a family of people that were AB negative that I thought I was working with, and so I ended up going to Brooksville, but they were in Tampa for New Year's Eve. It was her, she was an AB negative, she had an AB negative daughter, and then supposedly two sisters that were AB negative, was just, and I'm not even gonna get into that story, except just for this. I was supposed to stay the night in Tampa that New Year's Eve night, 2022, for January 1st. I knew I couldn't. I had to get out of there. So I was there during the day and left for the actual New Year's. I wasn't there at midnight. What was going on in Tampa in January 2022 was the Virgin Boy Greek spell. Now, if you've never heard of this, they take 50 virgin boys, little boys, and they put them on a boat off the coast of Tampa, and it's some big Catholic Greek binding spell. Well, this was going on when I was there, January 2022. So, long story short, with that whole thing, I had to leave Brooksville. Now, when I, because everything was kind of going cross at that point, and I needed to get out of there. When I left Brooksville, and as this was all going on, I had to make a maneuver that I didn't want to make. As far as like my higher self and my abilities with phonetics and how I cipher things and how I can bring things back into the realm, how I activate different things just by ciphering the name and the phonetics. And all of that was going on in Brooksville in January 2022, and they were attempting to like bind us into the line. And this also was linked into elves and the elven family lines, and those elven family lines attached to baby farming and attached to kind of like an orphan train that was still going on down here in a different way, that was dealing with more or less like laboratory and things like that, and how it was being done. I'm like shaking. Sorry, I'm like out of breath too. I have a very weird energy with this video. Now, where was I? I had to, a lot of information was coming in, like the menu questions and all of that had come in, and so I was just getting doused with tons of data and tons of information, just even about the healing brand and the Blant brand. And if I remember correctly, I even activated a power, ciphering. Because basically what was happening is I had abilities to like look at people's charts and tell different things, but then it got to where I had too many around me, so I was giving extra abilities to do it quicker, kind of. So my ciphering kind of leveled up only because of what they were doing against us, the collective, and trying to stop natural process. And I had to cipher Anastasia Romanoff. Now, it wasn't just Anastasia. Whenever you do these ciphers and you're basically connecting dimensional timelines into yourself, like bringing back different dimensional pieces, and whenever I had to go back and do Russia, because I remember sitting there thinking, I don't want to do this. I remember, like, I literally was forced to reinstate Anastasia Romanoff, Prince Rogers Nelson, Elvis Presley, which that movie came out right after, like, that movie, then the Elvis Presley movie, and that whole actor and all that manifested after this happened. My name, my original government name, and that JM character that I was talking about. And I think that was it. There might have been one other person that was linked into that whole Aquarius deal. But anyway, I didn't want to have to pull that trigger because I knew it was going to be a Pandora's box, and sure as shit it was. Right after I wrote all of that, then that's when I had to get out of Brooksville. And I knew I couldn't come back to Texas. So I had to pit stop in Panama City, which is where they had that flood and the other incident, I think at the end of last year, beginning of this year. Panama City was a specific point, even connected to me from 1993. So it's like I had a 1993 connection in Panama City that was attached to this handler thing on a different level. Panama City also, I had to just kind of sit there for 3 days. There was a bunch of room moving back and forth, but it specifically had to do with like water entities and water nymphs and portals. Water nymphs and portals. So my parents just got home. So that, I couldn't go back to Texas. I had to go back in. So it was January 2022. I had already done time with our crew in Detroit. We had already been dealing with the handler system, the Cabal Lab, because that's up in Detroit in the Great Lakes. That's where the lab is. We had already already infiltrated into the handler system at that point in time. So I knew that that's where I had to go back to. So from Panama City, I drove back up into Detroit, had to stay there for another stint before I could come back, double back in and come back down to Texas. Now that was 2022. Fast forward to this year where all my time was spent and there I was back again with people that now they like to gamble, and they have they do their points and all these things, and it's all connected into Hard Rock and these casinos. So I'm staying with them in Florida, and lo and behold, I'm going to all these little reserve casinos. And I really still, the jury's out. The woman that I stayed with, that I've been working with for all this time, sent me a message on the 26th of August and said, I've got something, and just kind of vanished from my life. And so I really don't know how that is gonna, I really don't know. I've been trying not to think about it, trying not to manifest through it, because I never want to, I'm so tired of it. So tired of it, because it's been for so many years, this is how this would all happen, because nobody really knew how this worked and taken advantage of us. But I don't know what's going on with that, and at this point, to be honest, I really don't care, because it's personal to me now how it happened. But anyway, it was March 3rd that I went and cleared the reserve, and I had to do it by myself. So it's like we were in Hollywood, Florida, which a lot of the times we're in Hard Rock had bought Mirage. This has everything to do with the mafia. It has everything to do with the casino settings. It has everything to do with the mafia settings in a Masonic AB negative grid system that runs your financial system for the entire fucking world. Florida and it's like California was 6 dimensions too high. Florida was 6 dimensions too low. Florida was coiled. You can look at it. It's coiled. It's literally like someone, like a tiger by its tail. It's like Florida's tail is being held onto, and that's where the Bermuda Triangle is, and that's why in the Bahamas, that's why they do all their financial stuff, and that's where your shell corp, whatever the heck balls goes on. Well, that's why. It literally is a key. It's a key. It sets a tone. It has something also to do with the connections into Europe and into Africa and that whole waterway, and the limestone, the Indian reserves, all the Indian, all the different freaking Indian tribes that sold their land to governments and to casinos and did not take into effect at all any type of spiritual thing that land was doing for the state. Didn't take in, now everyone's talking about, oh, the Indians have been doing all these ceremonies and they have burials on Florida that's keeping it safe. You kind of pissed off what Indians? This is what TikTok's talking about right now. They're talking about, like, why are the Indians gonna protect Florida for a bunch of, what do they call them, snowbirds? We're not gonna protect Florida for snowbirds. It's not your jumping point. It's like lice. They're up in the north, and then it's like they all run to the south. But and then they want to run back and forth, and then they want to own the entire state of Florida, and then not have anybody live there except for 3 or 4 months a year. Like, the whole thing is just absolutely insane. Not to mention that you've got P. Diddy and Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago was gridded on my stuff the whole entire time. My house that I opened the portal with was on Del Largo Way here in Frisco. Del Largo is on a street right next to Mar-a-Lago in Florida. There's also a version of this that I know for sure. Trump, one of them, had like a body in a box off of Mar-a-Lago. This was, you could see it on Google Earth in like 2019, 2020. It was some type of body, electromagnetic current, something that was in a box that was on the shore right outside of Mar-a-Lago, and it was holding a current. And I know that it's been moved, and a new pool was poured in cement on the beach to Mar-a-Lago, and there's something underneath there that's attached to it now. And my crew, and even the woman I stay with in Florida, is cleared through cement throughout this. The Florida Keys, and especially Marco Island, have been retuned out of a cabal stronghold. That energy was cut. And that's really, I was gonna go on about the Comet, because the Comet, and I'll come back on shortly and I'll talk about the Comet, but the Comet is matching up to Las Vegas 2019, October. It's 100% matching up to my Oasis experience, and I knew that I got hit by a comet. I unhinged this galactic serpent, and they had the whole thing set up in Oasis, like, to feed this entity is in Las Vegas. But I got out of there October 12th. I left October 12th. I was there the 10th and 11th, the night of the 10th and 11th for sure. I want to even say the 9th. I can't remember if it was 3 nights or 2 nights. It was the most trip out fucking weird. but it's matching up to this year 5 years later with that comet coming in. Now that comet is heading straight forward Polis at the top of Capricorn. Polis, like the real pole. That's what it's like. It's like bonsai jump. And all you got to do is like hit it to spin it. So that's all matching up to Oasis and to Vegas, which is tying all of this together in a bow. So I just wanted to come on and give you guys what I have. Now, the other thing is one quick thing. Cape Coral, 1991. Cape Coral is linked to 1991, is linked to 1919 time counts because of the burials and stuff that were over there. But what everyone needs to understand is that as an ascended collective, we cleared the reserves of Florida in order to hold this with with our bodies in the collective. So and this is probably why this deal turned. It's got to go that direction. If you know, and I sent out a TikTok on this yesterday. If you know anybody that's stuck in the eye in the storm and they cannot get out, here is what I have to say. Today, put oil around the house. Baby oil, olive oil, cooking oil. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Any, not brown, not black oil. But I mean, if you had to, I guess you could. But any type of cooking oil, just walk around your house, put a perimeter up around your house. If it's an apartment complex, put a perimeter up around the building that you're in. That oil is gonna give like a reflective, opaque bubble for your energy to be in. The storm is highly, highly frequency driven, and you need to keep your frequency high. I know that it's going to be difficult whenever it starts. Make sure you've got some funny movies picked out. Tell each other some jokes. If you don't have any electricity, sing and dance. Get everyone together and just keep the frequency high. Keep the fear and the don't try not to stay in a trauma because it'll magnetize to you, especially all of y'all watching on here, because we're powerful beings. We understand that. So keep your energy high as possible. Get to, if you want to hunker down somewhere, like you don't want to be alone, if you know anybody else in town or in your family that is spiritual or as spiritual as you, or have them come to your house, or get to grandma who believes in God, like whatever, like the most highly spiritual person in the family line, or that you know, get to their house, because they're going to have more rooted energetics because they've been living in that energy to be able to kind of flow with it. Because even if it's coming straight through you, you can, because this is that 0 point, like you can sustain your field to where your house won't flood, unless, I mean, you really can. Unless you're, I mean, even if the eye is coming straight to you, can move it. And I don't know what else to say but that at this point. All I want to say to the world, and to especially everybody in the United States of America, this never should have ended up like this. This was supposed to be announced in 1973, and we were supposed to have 50 years to prepare and to move everybody and to get everyone set up and to get agencies set up to assist. And instead it was all done by a shadow government, and obviously headquarters moved to Florida. So I just hold out for the highest timeline in all space and time for everyone involved. And I ask the universe and the angels and the starseeds to get my warriors and my angels ready, and to surround and get everybody into position We've been knowing that something like this was going to happen for a while. As far as our ascended cruise, it's like we just needed to get it over with because we knew some things were going to happen. And this is kind of like this is the second actually now with what happened in the mountains. But I'm even saying all of that because remember that no weapon formed shall prosper. And so, you know, if you're in the eye, then I want you to know that we should have had more time. We should have had 50 years. This was always going to happen. This terraforming was always going to take place. And just you knowing that gives you extra power and support to save as many as you can and yourself and as much as you can in the middle of it. And I do want to give gratitude because I know that also right now what's happening as a spiritual collective is that you're being shown your powers and you're being shown what you can change and what you can't change. And that wisdom of knowing what you should try to change and what you shouldn't try to change is where is he? Is one of the hardest. Where is he? Oh my gosh, this big ass crow just landed. Why can't I see him? The strays are so strong. Where is he? Oh, I think he's right behind that ray. That's really kind of freaking me out. I think he's right there. Right when I said the wisdom, this bird came. There he goes. Look how big he is. Bear didn't like that. As soon as I said wisdom. So, just listen to their... If you're in a collective that's trying to stop this storm, I just want to remind you of the Atlantis, what happened with Atlantis first. Then second, you don't want to throw a bunch of light at this. That's not what you want to do. You do not want to throw a bunch of light at this. You do not want to throw a bunch of light at this. Do not stand in a circle and throw a bunch of light at it. If you're assisting in it, then what you need to do is pick it up and put it at 0 point. You don't want to try to move it. It's attached to the core. The G core is coming undone on the planet. You do not want to try to move it. If you have your energy that's involved with trying to move it and it's uncoiling, then you're going to get coiled up in it. If you are assisting and if you're feeling called, which I can understand, and I do believe this is going on, but here's the wisdom. Do not try to move it. Do not try to course correct it. What you want to do is just almost pick it up and turn it to 0 point to where it's going to move wherever it needs to. It's just not going to be as thick in the middle. Kind of like try to thin it out. Even expand it to an extent so that it's not all wrapped up in the center of it. Even that would be better for Florida for it to be expanded and more people get hit, but not as much pressure at one specific point. You really need to think about physics with this, but I will warn you, do not get in a collective and go freaking Atlantis on this. Do not do it. Do not, because it will counter-react. It's like throwing microwaves in a tornado. Okay. I'll be back. Oh, CoU32.com. Check it out. I'll just put this on the end. If you digi charts, we're caught up now, or if you want a coloring book to figure out your energies. If you're following me on TikTok, I've started doing like a daily update. I just started yesterday, so I'm perfecting that. So I'll be doing some more. Like it's once you get your chart, you're gonna have a lot of things to follow along with what energies are coming in and that type of thing on a daily. And we're working with our developer now, so if they're we're in that process. So if you have any problems, please email me at connect@cohu32.com. And other than that, we'll see you soon. Go check out House of Kochi. There's a few houses up there.